All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to our August meeting, August 10th, 2021. We would like to start with a moment of silence as we all stand and then with the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student board member, Ms. Will. So if everyone will stand, please. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our first bit of action is to adopt the agenda. Your motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second by Jason. Any discussion about the agenda? All those in favor of adopting the agenda as provided, indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we will use the agenda as proposed. Yes. Yes, yeah, sure. Thank you very much. I would like to say that Mr. Glatfeld is not able to be present here in the room with us today. However, he will be on the phone as phone connections allow as a part of our public session. Thank you. The approval of the consent agenda is our next bit of an item. Is there a motion? Motion by Monica, second by Jason, to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor of the consent agenda as provided to us indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the consent agenda is approved. Approval of the July 13th public session minutes. I think there is a correction that we have been given that should be noted as a part of the approval of this those minutes. Are there any other corrections or additions to public minutes that a board member wants to point out? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt? So moved by Jason.
Second.
Second by Matthew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the approval of July 13th is approved. The July 19th is as provided to us. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Matthew.
Second.
Second by Monica. All those in favor of approving the July 19th minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And those are approved as well. Madam Superintendent.
All right, closed session summaries for July 13th. The Board of Education met in executive session on Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 4:03 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items. Review of executive session minutes, personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1, and administrative function topics. Jason Van Sickle made a motion to move to executive session, and Matthew Paw seconded the motion. Thereafter, the board unanimously voted to close the session with a yay vote from Rodney Gotfelty, Matthew Paw, Monica Rinker, and Jason Van Sickle. The topics discussed in the closed session included the following: executive session minutes, June 8th, 2021. Executive session minutes, Rodney Gotfelty made a motion to approve the June 8th, 2021 executive session minutes, and Monica Rinker seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried with yea votes from Monica Rinker, Rodney Gotfelty, Matthew Paw, and Jason Van Sickle. June 24th, 2021 executive session minutes, Matthew Paw made a motion to approve the June 24th, 2021 executive session minutes, and Jason Van Sickle seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried with yea votes from Monica Rinker, Rodney Gotfelty, Matthew Paw, and Jason Van Sickle. Personnel, certificated staffing. The board discussed the recommended certificated staffing. The board also reviewed recent non-certificated staffing updates. The board took action on the certificated staffing recommendations in the public session under the consent agenda. Administrative function. The board discussed various administration function topics. The board considered these topics but did not take action on these items. Jason Van Sickle made a motion to close executive session, and Rodney Gotfelty seconded the motion. Motion carried with yea votes from Monica Rinker, Rodney Gotfelty, Matthew Paw, Jason Van Sickle. The executive session ended at 5:05 p.m. Mr. Tom Woods, Board President, Mrs. Monica Rinker, Board Vice President, and Board members Mr. Rodney Glotfelty, Dr. Matthew Paw, and Mr. Jason Van Sickle were in attendance. Also in attendance for part or all of the meeting were Mrs. Barbara Baker, Superintendent, Mr. Brandon Hoover, Board Attorney, Dr. Jane Wilderson, Director of Human Resources, Dr. Nicole Miller, Chief Academic Officer, and Mrs. Karen Brewer, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent. The Board of Education met in executive session on Monday, July 19th, 2021 at 11:17 a.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss a personnel topic pursuant to 3-305B1. The topics discussed in the closed session included the following: Superintendent evaluation. The Board discussed the Superintendent's mid-year evaluation and action plan. Matthew Paul made a motion to close the meeting, and Jason Van Sickle seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried with yea votes for Monica Rinker, Rodney Glotfelty, Matthew Paul, and Jason Van Sickle. The Board adjourned the executive session at 2:10 p.m. Mr. Tom Woods, Board President, Mrs. Monica Rinker, Board Vice President, and Board members Mr. Rodney Glotfelty, Dr. Matthew Paul, and Mr. Jason Van Sickle were in attendance. Announcements? Okay. Upcoming events related to the school system: August 17th and then the 23rd through the 27th is our new teacher orientation at Southern Middle School. August 18th, we'll have an administrative assistant in service at Northern Middle School from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. August 24th will be a school bus driver in service at the Garrett County Fairgrounds. August 24th also is a Maid Ward Service Academy on the Open Meetings Act from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. August 30th is the teacher's first day back. September 6th is Labor Day. Schools will be closed. September 7th, first day of school for students, and October 6th through the 8th, the Maid Conference at the Westin Inn in Appleton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we're going to talk about summer programming recap, and Dr. Miller is going to provide that to us.
Yep. So I'm pleased to be able to bring to you today a recap of our summer programming. And first, I'd just like to commend all of the people that were involved in making this happen. It was a considerable amount of work, a heavy lift to turn around, and it crossed all departments. Transportation was involved, food service was involved, of course our instructional team was involved, and we couldn't have done it without a lot of hard work and energy invested to make it happen. You can go to the next slide, or I guess I can go to the next slide. The quicker. So one of the first programs that we had was the high school program that occurred in June, and you can see our goal was to focus on recovering course credits for students at the high school level that did not obtain credit over the last year. You can see the subjects that we offered. They were all obviously core subjects that align with graduation requirements. We did hold that at a central location at Garrett College. It was an excellent venue for the program, and both Mr. Edwards and everybody involved was very pleased with that venue. And 98% of the students who attended earned credit. Then, of course, we went into July, where we had our county-wide pre-K through 8th grade camp, and we had several goals for that camp, but they included remediating identified priority standards. It was a very targeted focus on particular standards, and accelerating and scaffolding upcoming content to ensure mastery of prerequisite skills, as well as social emotional support for our students. And some of the highlights included, we did make a very concerted effort to keep a low teacher ratio to really give individualized attention to students, and that was K through 12. We also made that ratio even lower for our rising pre-K and pre-K. So we were able to secure GCPS certified teachers and trained instructional assistants. We provided transportation and meals, and you can see the locations were at in Broadford. Our areas of focus academically were our ELA math and science social studies, with a particular emphasis on some hands-on activities with science. We did include some fine arts and physical education as a measure of social emotional learning and activity, as well as we had several staff at both sites for social emotional learning lessons that we did. We did offer 3 days to our teachers that were working the program, and the large majority of them took advantage of that. And that was time that we spent at the college, where we really planned out the priority standards and exactly what we were going to cover for the 2-week period. And we did use Schoology as a platform to use that to basically be our hub for all of our content as it related to our summer programming. So that was very helpful. You can see that we had a variety of community partners that we worked with throughout the summer program, and that was important. And of course, 2nd through 8th grade was very excited to go to Hickory, and they had a field trip experience, which allowed us to give an environmental science component, but as well as a nature component, and just kind of a well-being, social emotional piece to our program. And all of you know Mr. Troutwine, and Mr. Schultz also contributed to this. The Rockets, the upper grades at both elementary sites did a rocket activity, and they really enjoyed shooting off their rockets. So it's always a popular one. These are just some program highlights. You know, you saw the percentage earlier of 98% of the students from high school earn credit. I referenced this last meeting as well. That equated to 40 students, which, given that we haven't offered a summer program for high school in the past, at least recently, that was a very strong number for us to get as far as attendance is concerned. 281 students attended pre-K through 8th grade for the July camp for those 2 weeks. And you can see our overall increase in performance on the target skill that we focused on for ELA was 34% increase from beginning to end of program, and 32% for math from beginning to end of program. And for that camp, we had an 85% attendance rate, which I thought was important to share because not every, I think that might be Mr. Glatfelty.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Mr. Glatfelty. That was important to share because not every family chose to come for both weeks. So it kind of gives you an idea of what the attendance rate was, but that's a pretty good attendance rate for a summer program, in my opinion. These are just some summer quotes from the program that you can read at your leisure, but just some students that were willing to share about how they felt about the program. And you can see some of them really just enjoyed being with their friends and being, you know, being with the teacher and having social time. And then others just really wanted to review things that they might have forgotten over summer. And the last quote is from a teacher who really emphasized one of her favorite activities being a science experiment that they did, where they got to make sugar move using sound waves, which I thought was a very nice quote. And it really did her heart well, and she definitely referenced that. And with that, we also had some pop-up summer programs that occurred. So what you've heard so far have been the county-wide programs for pre-K through 12th grade. But we did have some pop-up summer programs dependent on particular school needs and some funding that was Friendsville being one of them, and you can see they had a program for 6 days, dinosaur theme, and they in that program. And then we had a program with a literacy theme. It was a very targeted program, and they really only had 8 students participate. Hickory did have their transaction that additionally had happened going to them. And they did nature crafts, dissecting out pellets, orienteering, and swimming. The one big difference in that is that typically it was a multi-day camp. In order to accommodate some of our practices in June, it was a one-day camp. But people did get that opportunity, so that was exciting for them. And then we have a couple more summer programs left to do before robotics.
Mr. Glatfelty?
Yes.
We're getting a tremendous amount of feedback that we can't hear Dr. Miller for the feedback. is there some way you could reduce that?
Mute himself.
Mute his phone for now.
Unless he wants to talk, mute himself.
Yeah, if you could just, yeah,
I fixed it.
must have.
Did you get feedback when I had it on mute?
Pardon me?
Is that better?
It is.
Much better. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Miller, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So our upcoming summer programs include 3 robotics camps, which will serve 69 students. Those will be coming up very soon. And then we still have Judy Center pre-K and kindergarten transition camps that will be coming up in August. So we're not done yet, but it's getting to be close to the beginning of the year. So we're on the downhill slide for summer programming. But I'm more than willing to answer any questions the board might have about our summer programs. But that gives you a picture of the totality of what we offer.
Questions? Anybody got a word? Yes, ma'am.
On your first slide, your high school summer programming,
Mhm.
it says they could get 98% students who attended earned credit. Some of them need the credits, course for high school to graduate.
Mhm. Yeah, all of those classes are high school graduation credits that would be needed to graduate. And I believe we only had 2, maybe 3 current seniors that were actually involved in the program, and my understanding is they earned the credit needed to graduate. So that was why it was important to have it in June, because if they earn that credit before June 30th, then they will be considered a 2021 graduate. Otherwise, they go on the next year's cohort, and that can be problematic. So it's important to get that done before June 30th.
Right. Thank you.
I did stop by the Rockford program one morning. I was going through and talked with Mr. Stevens and Mr. McCullough. So they took me around and showed me, I think 3 or 4 classrooms. I was super impressed. I'll just be honest with you. I was just super impressed with what I watched being taught, but I was more super impressed with the kids. They were absolutely on the edge of their seats. There was absolutely no disruptions in any of those rooms. They were just having a wonderful time. I mean, a wonderful time. It was really extremely well done. And I'm sure it was done just as well at the northern end as well. But, I will say that my half hour couldn't have been better.
That's how I felt when I visited, and I know that, Ms. Baker and others were in the school, and I think it was just very refreshing to see the students and the teachers engaging in summer programming and just really enjoying themselves.
Yes.
Just to add to that, on the northern end, I had 2 children that attended. One was a pre-K, had never been to the schools before, and both loved it. She can't wait to go back for school to start. She's about to start the following week. And I said,
Oh, wonderful.
Good to hear.
Anything else? Anybody else have a question? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right. I think you're up again.
I think so. So next is our reopening and recovery plan fall 2021 draft. This plan is right now still in draft form, but do want to provide the board an update on where we're at. And just to reference a little bit of, I referenced this last month, but just to remind everybody that all of the jurisdictions in Maryland have been tasked with creating a reopening and recovery plan. And there are 13 requirements that are required, and all the districts were given the option to either revamp, as in update their previous reopening plan, or start brand new with a new plan. And we have chosen to start brand new. We wanted to rebrand it and kind of make it very specific to 2021, 2022 school year. So that's the draft that you see right now is where we are at. This certainly was a team approach as well, and crossed all departments. Cabinet was heavily involved, LEAD was heavily involved, other administrators within the county were involved, and of course we did many surveys that you'll hear about a little bit later to different stakeholder groups that also impacted where we're at and will continue to impact where we're at with our reopening plan. So there are 13 13 requirements, and let's see.
Did you, I may have mentioned it, and I was skimming it. This is something that every county must do.
This is something that every county must do, yes. All jurisdictions are required to have a fall reopening and recovery plan with the 13 requirements that I referenced. And it's also aligned and required through our American Recovery Plan ESSER funding. So it's, yes, the MSD is requiring it, but it's also in conjunction with federal funding that it's required by multiple entities at
And the
this point.
submission date is?
The 17th of August. Mhm. And I'm sure we'll get feedback because that's typically what happens, but our first draft will go to the state on the 17th of August. Last meeting, it was required to be posted by July 30th. They had pushed that deadline at the request of superintendents throughout Maryland. So that's why the date now is August 17th. We were still committed, though, to getting a draft plan up before July 30th. So that's what we have up for the stakeholders and community at this time. But it is important to recognize that this is a draft. There were 13 components, and we categorized the components in the areas of access and equity, communication, recovery efforts, and safety protocols. The first section really just talks about a whole school, whole child, whole community model that we will adopt as kind of how we are going to approach recovery as a whole. And Ms. Aiken is working on a website that will be associated with this page. It is almost ready to go live. So on our next published version of the plan, there will be a link to our website that will have very specific information about our whole child, whole school, whole community, and the 10 components that are included within that. Of course, as I mentioned at the last meeting, our overarching goal for GCPS is to return to full in-person instruction 5 days a week, aligned with the Maryland resolution of the state board. And you can see that that's highlighted on this page, providing full access to campuses and facilities, and implementing a normal school operating schedule. And at this time, GCPS does not intend to provide a virtual only option. And of course, all of that is done through the lens of equity, which is the rest of this page.
Yes, Ms. Rickman.
Well, I was thinking, I have a few questions, like, so I'll wait till the end,
No,
or during that
You
page.
might want to do it as we go through it, because it'll be hard to remember from beginning to end. It's a pretty long document.
Okay, well, back on your table of contents, where it has 1, 2, 6, 7, 16, like on 6 communication, your sentence there, GCPS dedicated to consulting with a wide variety of stakeholders in regards to the reopening plan, updating information at least every 6 months. So my question is, why does it say 6 months instead of like 3? Like, I'm thinking.
So it's the way the expectations from MSDE and the way it's written as far as it's called the ARP-S, or American Recovery Plan, is that at minimum, we have to review and potentially revise at minimum every 6 months.
Okay.
It could be more than that if the need arises, but according to the grant guidelines and MSDE expectations for our reopening and recovery plan, at minimum, it's every 6 months that we will have to look at it. So that's why it states that.
Okay, I just wondered, but if you need to change it before then, you can.
You can. You have the latitude to do so. You just have to do it every 6
Okay,
months.
all right, thank you. And on that page, sorry,
It's okay.
will you have the one before that, like the circle with the blue and all the wording in community?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. Well, the last paragraph. It says, in order to meet the unique needs of all stakeholders, GCPS will adopt a whole school, whole community, whole child, WSCC.
Mm-hmm.
Did we come up with that title, or is
Yeah,
that?
that is
Okay.
aligned to CDC guidelines.
Okay.
And they recommend that schools adopt this model and then have emergency operation plan that goes along with it. So typically schools, we have standard protocols for how we do physical education, nutrition, health education, all those 10 components. We have our standard protocols, which will be on our website, as to how we address those components of our instructional model. Different from that is our emergency operation procedures. So at the bottom, so we'll have our standard operating procedures, and then we'll have our emergency operating procedures. So on that website, then it'll show the things that are different, that we're doing differently now because of the pandemic that is outside of our standard operating procedure. So that'll be what's shown on the website.
Okay, because I don't remember seeing that anywhere, and I thought, well, I'm gonna see where that came from, for WSTC.
Do you have anything else to add, Ms. Aiken, on that? You are the expert on WISC.
It's been around for a while, it's a standard in CDC, and a lot of our wellness, groups within the school teams, work with those guys with the WISC model.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. After we get through our equity section, of course, within our equity section and access, we have our special education components. This is largely standard operating procedure, but we're reminding our community of what our standard process will be to meet the needs of our special education students. That is that section, and very similar to that, the 504 section, that again highlights mainly our standard operating procedure. I mean, we're going back in person, so obviously we're going to make sure that our students with 504s, their needs are met. EL students also have that same section that talks about how we're going to address their needs, as well as gifted and talented. If you want me to go in more detail about those sections, I can, but
If there's questions, we'll go into detail.
Okay.
For EL, is our percent, increase, it seemed like last year, I think school year had increased a little bit, that we have in this school is about the same, the percent?
Year over year, it was the same, but right now, we're still doing the counting the enrollment.
right, and well, at the beginning of the year, as we enter new kindergarten students, they'll be screened as well. So there may be additions.
Right,
to
and
the
any
enrollment process.
students that
Any new students,
enter,
Right, but it's still pretty low,
It's
percent,
still a-
over the whole county. We have.
Proportionately, it's a small population.
Yeah.
10.
10 students, not 10%.
I know. But I'm glad you clarified.
Do we have like, I guess staff
So through
at
ESSER 2,
elementary and secondary levels too?
well, historically, we have served those students through temporary contracted staff. With the ESSER 2 funds, we have hired a person to be our EL teacher for the
So the,
county.
our traveling one that we
It'll be a
go
traveling
to.
one. Yeah, but that, it will be, and she's certified in EL and very highly capable in meeting the needs of our EL population. So,
Good.
yes, fantastic. Anything else?
That's all, okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything on gifted and talented while I'm on that page?
So do we have, like, I guess, a dedicated person to work with us beside the grade level teacher?
It looks different in every school. So the way it's stated in here is the GT program is designed to run differently amongst the various schools within Garrett County due to staff availability. So it may look different at every school, but all of these things will be standard operating procedure within the school.
So I guess the people that's supposed to do it are well aware of their
They've been doing it,
duties.
I'm sure, for a while. Yeah.
I just remember years ago, when my older girls were in school, we actually had a dedicated, gifted and talented teacher at Bennett Road. There was one, you went to that classroom during the day, and then I know as time went on, we didn't have that dedicated one person for all the students to go to, if we addressed it differently.
Okay, and then we get to the stakeholder feedback page, and this is where we highlight the survey that we sent out to all the stakeholders. And what you will notice that is different from the one that is currently posted on our website is that there is that blue section in large letters that says but you can look at the stakeholder data and review it by clicking here. And if you click there, it will take you to a document that I'll share with you in a little bit. So we want to make sure that data is available to everyone so that they can review it as well. We clearly already did the draft reopening plan posted by July 30th, which is the second bullet. And of course, getting public comment on that posted plan has already occurred as well. So we will, moving forward, we'll be looking at how we want to structure our stakeholder meetings and ensuring ongoing access and communication. Now we get into one of the largest sections of the plan, which is not surprising. This is our recovery section, which is a large emphasis for our instructional team. And you can see this first section is really geared towards identifying the instructional needs, identifying the learning loss and the learning gaps, and monitoring student progress. So this first bulleted list it's basically a menu of different assessments that we will use to identify learning loss and where our gaps are. What I want to make sure you understand is it is not a comprehensive list of assessments that each student will take. It is very specific to the grade level. So for example, kindergarten readiness assessment is one assessment that's listed on there, and only kindergartners will be taking that assessment. So, you know, we'll make sure that the correct assessment is given to the right students based on their grade. And of course, the results of those assessments will be used to identify learning gaps, to prioritize students for particular extended learning opportunities. Other data may also be used, such as engagement last year, attendance, things like that. But our academic data is going to be a major driver in identifying students for academic programs. Okay.
Back there with the whole list of some of the assessments. Now, are these assessments that we would have given before COVID, or have we changed in assessments that we are currently going to give starting this school year?
So the iReady Math Universal Screener is new. That is a intervention screener and program that we will be adopting through our recovery plan that is a vetted, what's called a level 1 or tier, it's actually a level 2, but it's a vetted curriculum that has an evidence base behind it for intervention. And this is the screener that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. So that one is new. Hood Mifflin is one that we have historically used for ELA, as is IMSE in the past. And ERLA was new last year, so we're going to be building upon that. I believe the Arkansas Rapid Automatic Naming is relatively new, but I don't want to say that it's brand new. Of course, we did not give the kindergarten readiness assessment last year, so that will be a key indicator for our kindergartners. And of course, we have last year's 2021 high school administration of MCAP.
I guess you don't really have something for pre-K because it's the first year in school, correct?
Yeah. If there's a identification of a developmental delay, then we would use the early learning assessment. And so for our intervention process, we will use our multi-tiered system of support. That is a standard operating procedure. It's a process that is vetted and has a strong evidence base behind that. So we'll continue to use that, as well as our PLC, our professional learning community model, to really work with teachers working with teachers on really collaborating on identifying the gaps and determining what skills and what prerequisites need to be focused on, and then matching that with the appropriate intervention and providing those supports. I did highlight a section on the Rising Kindergarten. We were able to write into one of our grants the opportunity to have an additional adult support in every single kindergarten class for the fall, basically the fall semester, from the beginning of the school year through December, to help transition those students into kindergarten and really focus on KRA skills, and close those gaps very early for those students. So that's an important strategy that we'd like to highlight.
So would you basically consider that like the kindergarten aide that we would have called them before, that would be a new worker teacher? Is that what-
Well, the kindergarten assistant that is traditionally assigned to kindergarten, which is typically assigned at a 2-to-1 ratio, so 1 IA to 2 kindergarten, that's still in place. That's out of our unrestricted budget. This is in addition to that, to specifically work with small groups and identify students that have learning loss or maybe don't perform on grade level for the KRA, to be able to quickly make amends on
this. We actually have an extra person then in our kindergarten room.
Yes, and also because those students, a large proportion of them did not have a very typical pre-K.
Right.
You know, having that transition and the social emotional piece is also important.
I remember at several months ago board meetings when Ms. Schweitzer was going over some bills that had passed or in process. Was there anything that went through more with possibly 3-year-olds coming to school? Like,
Yes,
How
that's
that
part
impacts
of the
the-
blueprint for Maryland's
Yes.
future, is that we will be having 3-year-old pre-K, not this school year, not school year 21-22, but it will start in the next school year, the next budget cycle that we start talking about.
so will you, I guess, you're still, things will probably change, you'll get more guidelines, so it'll be 3-year-olds mixed with 4-year-olds in the same classroom, is what you're saying, or it'll have to be a separate?
No, not necessarily mixed.
It'd probably be a standalone 3-year-old
Okay.
classroom, but I envision a lot of work to be done in that,
Right.
and more than likely partnership with our Garrett County Community Action.
Mhm.
So, because it would be for our most high-risk
Right.
3-year-old students.
So that's,
And guidance is forthcoming from
Right.
MSDE. You know, the legislation, the language is one thing, but then once you start unpacking what that really means, and then MSDE provides guidance to the LEAs, then we'll understand a little bit better what that means for here.
One really excellent piece of information, though, that will help support early childhood, including 3s and even all the way down to 0, is that we did apply for a competitive grant that would extend our Judy Center options, and we received that. So that will allow Broadford to be a standalone Judy Center school with standalone staff, and then it'll allow our other staff for the Northern Judy Center and the Southern Judy Center to be dispersed at the schools that they're assigned. So it'll be a more equitable distribution of staffing, which I think will be helpful.
I had just one more question on that slide, if that's okay. So first, about the chalkboard, I guess. Students who require additional instructional support to close learning gaps will receive supplemental interventions in small groups or individually based on individual needs. Elementary schools will have 2 intervention enrichment periods built in. Is that different than what we had before COVID, that time training built in that period?
Typically, before COVID, we would have had a half an hour for tier 1, 20 minutes to half an hour for tier 2. I think I just said tier 1. Whew. Tier 1 is our core instruction. So a half an hour, 20 minutes to a half an hour for tier 2 and 20 minutes to half an hour for tier 3.
Okay.
So it will be standard.
Okay. Because I've had elementary children for a while.
Yeah, we have to be careful too to recognize that some reteaching is going to have to occur throughout the year as prerequisite skills are needed. Obviously, our focus is going to be on moving grade level standards forward, but if there is a prerequisite skill that the majority of the class doesn't have, that'll be part of our core instruction. We're going to have to make sure all students understand that prerequisite before they can get to the next level. So there will be times where recovery happens in tier 1, which is the core time as well.
Okay.
But our emphasis is on moving students forward with grade level instruction. That is very important, that we move forward and then scaffold in the supports where necessary.
Of things that might need to move that back on.
Yeah, if we stay on below grade level skills during our core instruction, then we will always be behind. So we have to move forward and scaffold appropriately based on the student needs. This is a menu of interventions, evidence-based interventions that we will be able to select from. It is important that we use evidence-based interventions, both for funding purposes, but also based on best practices. You know, we want to use the interventions that have the most impact on closing gaps. And so this is just a list of evidence-based intervention programs, but also recovery strategies that we can use. And in the middle section, it talks about, obviously, the small group tutoring, after-school programming, and summer programming. Those are some of the methods we can use to provide extended learning opportunities beyond the school day.
I guess the after-school programs, we talked about it, I think at some time that possibly might have tutoring after school. Is that correct, at some time?
It certainly could be possible. Our data right now is suggesting that the large proportion of stakeholders would like to see as much in-school intervention as possible. So the tutoring grants that we've written to date have really been emphasizing and focused on during the school day tutoring opportunities and small group intervention opportunities for students. It doesn't mean that we won't ever have after-school opportunities or tutoring after school. I think that'll be another layered approach that we'll use.
And then we keep using the word stakeholders. Do you mean like our supervisors, our directors? Is that who you're referring to on some of these?
I'm referring to the survey data. So it would include obviously our lead and our cabinet and principals. We did a survey for principals as well, but also the parent, student, and staff surveys that we did. They all had a higher, I'll show you that in a minute, but a higher proportion of school intervention time being a priority.
Okay.
This page basically highlights some of the curriculum development initiatives that we're focused on at this moment. You'll see the very first one is the iReady Math I referenced earlier. Also, making sure that we can return to hands-on activities and lab investigations for science. So we're looking at updating our science scope and sequence K through 5, but I also know Mr. Schulp is working with the secondary schools to ensure that those same hands-on activities can be put back into practice now as well as students return. There's going to be some guidance on some of the math standards and curriculum that will help teachers really identify some of the gaps that Mr. Schulp has been working on, and we're going to be working on our new social studies framework for grades 3 through 5. So there's a lot of work that is going to happen over the course of the next 3 years, but this is a start.
So then I guess in the upcoming budgets, we'll see some things in there for the new curriculum that's maybe the science could be sequence, right?
Well, we just adopted resources for science not long ago. So it's a matter of using those and rolling them out and making sure that we're doing that with fidelity and providing teachers the support necessary to do so. So Dr. McCauley and Mr. Schulp have already got together with teacher leaders around the system from each school, and they've rolled out a plan to do this. So that should be quickly implemented, I would think, this year. The social studies framework may take us a little bit longer, just because it is a new framework, and we're going to have to be looking at possibly some open educational resources to support that. So that might take us a little bit longer, but we'll get there. Okay. This slide talks about professional development at this time related to our recovery plan. So it just lists various components that we're going to have to highlight over the course of this year to ensure that we're implementing our recovery strategies with fidelity. Our attendance protocols are detailed on the next page. At this time, with our full return to in-person learning, we'll be following our standard operating procedures that can be found in the GCPS Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. And then there is a clause that detailed on this page that talks about if a student would have to isolate or quarantine due to being a close contact, the school nurse and the school's nurse should be aware, obviously, of the attendance, and it'll be coded as an exclusion. And during those days, the school will provide work based on where the instruction is at that point. And that can be provided based on paper packets, books, online resources, Schoology, and other resources to help the students stay on track while absent from school. So be treated just like a normal illness absence, a flu, something like that.
Dr. Miller, it might be important to elaborate as to why virtual is not an option for a student who is quarantined. We did have some comments that people asked why couldn't they,
Right.
due to many reasons, particularly the reason that the state mandated that we have to have a virtual option a while ago.
So, so there's a distinct difference between offering a virtual only option and an option for quarantine to jump on virtually. Of course, we had a deadline in June to implement or to submit a plan for virtual, and at that time, our data did not suggest that. But for this piece, really what it's going to come down to is, you know, we're going to have our teachers teaching in person, and teaching concurrently was much to be desired for all parties, and it required a lot of additional work for all staff, really. And I know it wasn't always easy for parents either, but having to teach concurrently is probably not going to be the best option for this type of situation because of the amount of workload that creates when a teacher has to do concurrent teaching. And our goal is to be open 5 days a week. And if you recall, when we were doing concurrent teaching before, we had additional time built in for teachers to be able to handle all of the components of that. So I don't know if that's what you were getting at. But
Well, the question was asked, I think, in some of the surveys, some of the discussion, why couldn't they just jump on a virtual format if they're going to be out for 10 days or whatever, 14. The answer is we're not.
we don't have a virtual format. Yeah, we don't offer a virtual format. And even if we did, just jumping on for 10 days is not a practical solution because that class would be obviously very much in tune with what they're doing and their schedule, doing what their normal standard protocol would be. Just adding students to that class is not going to be appropriate either. It wouldn't even be that classroom the classroom teacher of record. So that really wouldn't be an option either. Anything else to add on that? Okay.
Under your subtitle, social emotional learning, in one real long sentence, the last wording there, in the administrator and residency behavior supervisor. Can you explain what that is? Or what they do, I should say.
So that is, Dr. March fulfills that role right now, and she is a certified BCBA as well as school psychologist. So she has filled that role for the last year and provides targeted support for our most challenging students, students that have the most need for intervention. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Ms. Campbell.
No, she'll help with the implementation of FBA's behavior plans, that kind of stuff, to make sure we're implementing those pieces of the student's plan to try to help turn around the behavior.
So kind of like a traveling person again that
Yeah,
goes
she'll
to
oversee
school
all
learning
12 schools. She'll do trainings with any staff and students that need it. Yeah, she's another resource that should be out in the buildings with students.
Okay, thank you.
This page talks about our technology deployment, which highlights the different devices that will be provided to each grade level. Certainly, every student is going to have a device, so it will be a one-to-one situation, but different devices will be deployed at different grade levels. Elementary students will keep their devices at school and they'll be charged at school. You know, obviously there would be a plan for deployment if we needed to do so, but at this time we're going to keep them at the school level, and secondary students will have their device with them, assigned to them, and they can take them home and bring them back and forth. You can see the plan for food services and health services as well. I'll be glad to answer any questions on that if you want me to go into detail.
Well, I'm thinking for food service, I know several of the kids last year said, do you think there'll be a la carte yet at secondary school, or just, will it be like just will it be a hot meal in a tray, or will it be like it was last year?
Feedback for the time being, so we figure out, staffing and some issues we have. We're trying to maintain 3 deep cafeteria to try to get them through quicker if we're gonna stay with bags. We're gonna add some a la carte items to the menu instead of selling.
Yeah. And at this time, there is still plans to distribute meals in the evening for the community, for students. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do 7 days of snack and supper is our current plan. That's distributed on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Is our current plan.
And it just has nothing to do with this, because the van came in that
Nope.
you've been waiting on. No? Okay.
September 2nd, the refrigeration is supposed to ship, and I have absolutely no word on the van yet, so.
So this slide discusses our current expectations for athletics and extracurricular, which is standard operating procedure at this time. And our wellness practices are detailed on this page. And I guess one of the key highlights on this one is that if a staff member would be identified as needing to quarantine or isolate, we would follow the negotiated agreement specific to teleworking. So that's something to highlight on that page. All right, and then we get to our safety protocols. This is kind of what I would consider a high-level glance of the safety protocols that we'll be adopting aligned to the CDC guidelines at this time. Again, this is just draft. You can see we have a 92% staff vaccination rate as of May, which is extremely high, and we're very proud of that. I think that will be very helpful to us as we return in person. What I will highlight on this page, obviously you all can read the bulleted components, but one might want to know more information about some of those bullets. And what will be added on our next publication is that bottom line that's in bold that indicates to click here. And if you wouldn't mind clicking there, that would be great. When clicking there, it'll take us to another document that will detail in more detail what each piece of those protocols actually mean. So all of the bullets have a much more detailed explanation underneath them. And the one that I want to draw attention to, I think is 7 or 8. So if you want to scroll down to that one. Of course, these are all bulleted on the main document, number 8. This is where we have very clear detail about contact tracing and how contact tracing will look, as well as what the definition of a close contact would look like, what the CDC guidelines indicate in regards to close contacts in schools between students that are masked, and then of course how we will handle fully vaccinated people versus unvaccinated when it comes to quarantine situations. So, any questions on that piece? And then our second to last slide, which is, well, maybe it's the third to last slide. Our transportation safety protocols. Right now, the CDC has a federal order in place that requires anyone who is riding a school bus to wear a mask. And so that is our position in our draft reopening plan as well. Yep.
I'm sure not every parent and guardian will actually look at this on the website.
Mm-hmm.
So do we probably have planned to have like a back to school night, or do you know if we're going to do anything that before the start of school?
Yeah, we're still planning.
Okay, that's what. So then I guess the teachers or the principal of school would make the parents, guardians aware about the mask mandatory.
Yeah, and we'll continue to they'll do that, and with Mr. Wazowski, we're gonna continue to do PR on, and
Right.
ensuring that message gets out.
But I just know that from a parent standpoint, other parents I've seen for, wouldn't always look at our website, and they rely on the most valuable information they get at back to school night, like what the child needs for school, what's expected, papers are signed, and this would kind of fall in that category.
And we'll have masks on the bus.
Right.
As students. Or
Yeah.
provide them.
And this is the second to last page. So this page details our commitment to align with the Maryland State Board resolution, which is to have in-person learning 180 days this year. However, we do understand that there may be a need for a contingency plan. If a entire class is considered a close contact, or needing to quarantine for some reason, grade level, or we have a significant outbreak that would, in conjunction with Garrett Health Department, put us in a situation where we would have to close for a period of time, we would obviously shift to a virtual platform for whatever group of people that would apply to. And in order to do that, we would obviously seek MSD approval, deploy laptops, hotspots, and deliver instruction through Schoology and our Google Meets, and we're prepared to do that. What you don't see on this page yet is some sample schedules of what the day might look like. It probably will be a short-term schedule option versus a longer-term schedule option, because it will probably be dependent on whether or not it's a class or a whole school. So we're still working on that. Lead is still hashing that out, and of course principals are being involved in that as well. And our last page will be our frequently asked questions. And if you click on the click here, right now there's nothing listed, but we will be populating that document as we get questions and answer them.
That's all I was saying. You don't have to go back to it, but on the previous slide, you had said that elementary students that are devices will be kept at school in charge there. Secondary will be assigned their device, so that means they can bring them home, correct, if they need to do work. So will we automatically give hotspots to the ones that will need internet at secondary schools, or wait and just see, and that might come later?
We won't distribute them until they're needed.
Okay. Even if some kids might say they don't have internet capability at their location, it'll just, okay.
Or some virtual.
Okay. When you said hotspots, I thought, well, I'd ask because that might be a question that's on there. Okay, thank you.
Questions from any of the other board members about the presentation?
I don't know how much detail you want me to go in on the data, or if you just want me to reference that it will be available through the link.
Well, probably that would be the best. I think, certainly people who are watching are asking themselves, but what are they going to do about masks? And what are they going to do about school and all these things? So I don't know if Superintendent Baker or you or Dr. Miller want to, or I can, it doesn't matter, but we certainly should, I think, give people who care what our intentions are.
Well, right now, in the plan, it does indicate right now that we are recommending the use of masks, particularly for unvaccinated persons. But we do have a month until school starts. So we'll be having a meeting on Tuesday, August 24th, to look at the current metrics and revise the plan any further when it comes to any of the safety protocols, including face covering.
So I guess the answer to that question that somebody is asking is there is no decision tonight. But I will say this, from my perspective, as a member of the board, we're not on the right track. Say that with all honesty, we're not on the right track. We need to get people vaccinated in Garrett County. We have 47% of people vaccinated. If we stay on those vaccination rates, it's not going to be a good ending. This is a pandemic that doesn't care who you are, or where you live, or anything else. It is getting worse. If you think about it, 3 to 4 weeks ago, we had 23,000 cases in America of the Delta virus. We had 183,000 today, in less than a month. So if that continues, obviously it's going to play havoc with our school systems, all of our school systems. If you follow news, you know that I think there are 8 or 9 in the state that are already mandating masks for all their kids. We can change it as a county, but we have to do it as the people who live in this county. We have to get vaccinated, we have to do the right things. We'll be able to keep our schools open for our kids, but we're going to make some changes. It's all are.
Well, 2 things. One, you're absolutely right. We did have we're partnering with the health department to provide a venue. It's completely optional, of course, but I believe today at Southern High School and then tomorrow at the Northern Middle School cafeteria, August 11th, and then again September 1st from 3:30 to 6:30. We are offering our schools as a venue for anyone that wants to get the vaccination, which is wonderful that we've partnered with them. And then I was remiss when Dr. Miller was talking about the fact that the meals will be free until the end of 22. Anyone that is watching, we still would like as many people to fill out their applications for free and reduced meals, because that gives us a number of funding sources, even though meals will be free if families, and we talked about that a good bit at the fair, and anybody that stopped by and asked about our food service department. So I meant to say that a little bit earlier as well, but you're absolutely right about the vaccinations, and if they can't come to one of our locations, they're in Oakland and in Grantsville, locations for clinics for vaccinations, and then there's one at Garrett College, September 16th, so they still have time to get into that one. So plenty of venues and plenty of ways for people to get vaccinated.
But again, to wrap it up, the board will make a recommendation, the superintendent will make a recommendation to the board in terms of how should we start school based on what the dynamics are towards the end of August and the 1st of September. And so we have it within our ability to change the dynamics in Garrett County. It's my hope that everyone will do their part to put an end to this nonsense of a pandemic. Okay. And you can read the survey online. People can look at it at their leisure.
Not quite yet, but when we post our revision, there is a document that has been developed that details all of the results of each stakeholder group. So there's one for parents, one for students, and one for staff, and definitely the public can review that at their leisure. And you can find it by clicking on the clicking here button on the communication page of the GCPS Reopening the Recovery Plan.
I think it is important to say we were very proud of the response we got to our surveys.
Yes.
Anytime you get 25% of anybody to respond, you've done a very good job. So we're very thankful to all the parents and students, faculty, staff members too. We took the time to fill it out. We got lots of comments on feelings of how to open schools. So we have a lot of things that we can look at and use as information for us to go forward. So,
and it's important to say too that, we took a lot of time reviewing that data too, and that data has been taken to heart and will continue to be used to help as we build out our program. You saw the very beginning of what it will look like, but this is going to be a 3-year process, and there are priorities highlighted in the survey that will definitely be taken into consideration as we plan out our program, our recovery options. So we really appreciate that, and we have looked at it very closely at this point, and you will be able to tell based on the report.
No doubt. Any questions or comments from anyone? Leah, anything?
I don't have anything in particular, no. I do second the fact that a lot of individuals were questioning masks. They were wondering what decision would be made about that, but I think you guys put it really well. We need to focus on getting vaccinated and making sure that everything we do is with the health of our students and staff in mind.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miller.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to policies and procedures. We've got some action items tonight. Wilson, the first one.
So this evening, we have 3 policies and procedures that we are hoping that the board, will approve revisions. The first one is GGA, use of sick leave policy procedure. Are there any questions on that policy or procedure?
First of all, we need a recommendation on superintendent. Superintendent Baker, do you have a recommendation on the?
Sure, I recommend GCA.
Put this down. I gotta vote on something. Put this down.
Is there a motion to adopt the sick leave policy?
I make a motion to approve policy.
Motion by Matthew,
Second.
second by Jason. Discussion? Any questions, concerns?
Thank you.
Okay, hearing none. There is a motion on the table, duly seconded. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And that policy and procedure is approved.
The second one this evening is GCBA, incentive salary payment policy and procedure.
To make a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend we approve GCBA incentive salary payment.
Is there a motion as such? Motion by Matthew.
Second.
Second by Monica. Any discussion? Any discussion on the policy GGA, use of sick leave?
And
Yes.
she had added what I'd asked today. I see it was on there.
Yes, I
Thank you,
did.
July 1st,
Yep.
just for clarification.
Mhm.
Make it so clear.
Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to, we have a motion for it? We need a vote. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And that policy and procedure also passes.
And the last policy for the board, for requesting the board to approve the revisions for GFA, group health insurance policy.
Approve GFA, group health insurance policy.
Is there a motion to approve GFA group health policy? Second by Jason. Matthew, discussion?
I have one question. Like, what would be?
What kind of drinks do you have in your pool? Pepsi.
Where it says, for its employees working more than 30 hours, so like, who would have less than 30 hours, like maybe custodial staff?
Well, we do have about 25 part-time employees. Those employees work under 30 hours.
So it's just, it's different categories.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, all those in favor of GFA group health insurance policy, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Also passes.
And the last thing this evening, we are recommending to retire policy 710, retirement insurance policy, because it is certainly outdated.
Certainly is.
Yeah.
Can I make a
I
recommendation?
recommend we retire this policy,
I do
710.
too. I do too. Do I hear a motion? Questions, anyone?
Thank you very much.
Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
She got up on
It is now retired. Dr. Wilson.
She's trying to get away, but she has 10 minutes.
I thought that was the next thing.
Well,
Yeah, I will mention that there is,
Why don't you just
we only have public comment, if we are open for business, which we are, we will entertain any public comment, but those of you who did provide public comment to us, it will be a part of the record, it will be accessible, but will not be read tonight. Only those who show up to speak will be given the opportunity.
And thank you for the ones that said it. We did read them.
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
them. Thank you.
A lot of. Okay, Dr. Wilson, you want to do the tenure recommendation?
Yes. Obtaining the status of tenure is considered a milestone for all of our educators. Our educators that fulfilled successfully effective evaluations after 3 consecutive years of working in the school system obtained tenure. This evening, we are bringing to the board 17 of our employees that 3 years ago started in our school system and successfully completed those requirements. So we're recommending for the board to approve tenure for those 17 employees.
I absolutely recommend that we approve tenure for those employees.
Is there a motion as such?
So moved.
So moved by Monica, Second, second by Matthew. Discussion about tenure, recommendations. Okay, I think it's important to point out too, I think you sort of said it, when I said, those 17 people were hired by us. They are still with us.
That's right.
And they are being tenured. Which means that they're doing a good job, and we as assistants are doing a job helping them become tenured teachers. So congratulations.
And to retain them, provide those additional support. Right.
Congratulations to everyone that had a part.
Absolutely, and their mentor.
The mentors, yeah. That's played a very big role. So we have a motion on the table, has been duly seconded. Those in favor of giving tenure recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you, Rodney. So we have a unanimous vote.
We're giggling because Dr. Wilson
Yeah,
tried to jump out before the vote, but thank you.
Leading too soon. All right, Northern High School parking lot maintenance project bid. This is an action item as well, and Mr. Wazlowski will present that.
I request tonight that we award the bid to BICO to do the paving prep work for the Northern High paving project.
Superintendent Baker, you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend that we approve the bid for the Northern High School parking lot.
So I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion by Matthew, approved. Seconded by Jason. Discussion?
And it was paid through the CIP, is that correct? County CIP?
Correct.
Funding for it, for the whole project?
Correct.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the superintendent, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Rodney. And it's unanimous vote. And our next one is the indoor air quality project.
No.
This is Southern High School Fence.
Oh, Southern High School Fence. I got them out of order, I guess. Okay, Mr. Wazlowski.
I'm here to ask a request to award the fence around the track at Southern High School to Upright Fence in the amount of $59,175. There was some concern brought about the openness of Southern's track versus Northern. As you know, we made a significant investment in that facility. Just the openness of it, we feel as a good way to protect it right now, to go ahead and get this fence installed directly around the perimeter, really limited access to just walking, trying to keep vehicles off. That's why I'm here tonight to ask for the approval for that as we go forward.
Superintendent Baker, your recommendation?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that we install the fencing as Mr. Wazlowski outlined. We did receive a letter from the principal encouraging this fencing project as well. It's been very difficult to keep people off of our brand new field, and no one's intentionally hurting it, but we don't know that will continue. So I think it would be prudent to go ahead and put a fence around it and ensure that we maintain the quality for a number of years to come. It's a large facility, and it is difficult to manage, keeping everybody off and filling vehicles and anything else that could get through the gate.
Okay, so superintendent's recommending that we spend the money for the fence. Is there a motion?
We accept the bid.
Motion by Jason, is there a second? Second by Matthew, discussion? One.
So you're saying the vehicles are actually driving up on the tracks then, or the field, or what?
Oh, no, there's fencing, but it's just the idea that whether it's an ATV or, somebody got in there with a vehicle, they could just drive across the turf.
So nobody has, we're just.
Well, nobody has, no.
You had bicycles on the track.
Bicycles.
So was the fence you want to put up, like the track, previous track, was open for people to walk? Maybe it was
Correct.
someone that was having, had their knee replaced and they start walking, or like a grandparent bringing the child, learn to ride a bike, training wheels or a tricycle.
Right.
So will they not be able to walk on the track?
No, there'll be access points to walk the track, whether you want to walk or jog. But everything else will be, no vehicle could fit through there, no bike, those kind of things. We do have the 4-foot path around the outside of that. So if somebody wanted to learn how to ride a bike and do those kind of things on a bike, they can do that. Just protect the turf and obviously the track.
So I guess for people that aren't sports people and realize the difference in the track, because the track is not actually like the asphalt that it used to be, correct? It's a different material.
Yeah.
So some people might not know the difference in it. So do we have a sign up, or can we put a sign up that what you're saying about the importance of not having?
Yeah, we just sent the signs today. We listed a whole, they're like 4 foot by something. It lists all those things. They talk about, just, Gatorade drinks, all those kind of things that are just not good for the turf. So we laid them all out. We're putting them up on the field now to let the public know all those kind of things. Pests, all those things, stay off the field.
I think the other thing that's important to note too is when you have activities on that field, let's use a football game. At the moment, you have no way of keeping people away from benches, sidelines, being on the field, et cetera, because they can just walk right onto the field if they want to. And if you have a large crowd, that's going to be a principal's nightmare to try to keep everybody back away from the actual playing field. So the bench would also keep that from happening too during a game time situation. Any other questions? Mike?
So after this is, done, will there be anything else that'll be needing to be done to the track, to the, how do I put it, the football field there? Because it started out as a gift from the governor,
Right.
and then as time went on, we've got some money from the local county commissioners, and then the Board of Education has put some funding into it. I mean, so I'm just wondering,
Lighting is next.
and that will come from the Board of Ed.
That's coming through the same capital grant program as the turf, the legislators. So we should expect that at some point in the fall, to receive that, and then we'll move forward putting lights on both fields. That's the next step.
And there's also, I think, visitor bleachers.
Yes, we're gonna do visitor bleachers also. Fields.
So again, when the fence is up, the community can still use part of the track in the outer one, you're saying?
No, the community can still walk on the rubberized track. It was an open, part of it was a project open space. So we're still allowing the walking, the jogging, and all those things what a track is designed to do. We're just trying to keep the bikes off and all those other kind of things that can cause damage to not the track, but also the turf.
I think in the bid, there's 4 gates.
Yeah.
4 different access
Yeah,
gates.
4 different access points for people to walk in and do that, and then there'll be a larger gate, so when we have events, when you take an ambulance or do different things to access the field, we'll be able to open that, as needed.
It only keeps out the people that want to do damage. It doesn't harm anybody who wants to do the right thing.
No, but I guess if you're used to bringing, I see you're saying you can't ride the bikes, but for one that was used to bringing their grandchild or whatever to practice riding.
Yeah. But we still have there's still a 4-foot walkway outside of the track.
Right.
That goes the entire way around. It's just regular asphalt, so they're more than welcome to ride their bike around that.
And do we have cameras up there, or we're in the process of getting cameras?
Lots of cameras. Correct, Mr. Yank?
We got cameras up there.
There's lighting, like there's some lighting that goes around that. The scoreboard even has night lighting on it. Okay, any other questions? All right, we have a motion, second on the floor to put I also want to, I think you had mentioned that was pretty much an incredible quote.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think
The price we
the
got.
feeling was it would be much higher than
Yes,
that.
that was the feeling. It's very good quote.
Happy with the quote. Okay, those in favor of the recommendation of Superintendent, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it's a 3-to-1 vote. Okay, we got,
Thank you. And now we're on indoor.
indoor air quality.
I'm here tonight to request award so that they can apply to the Army contract for our phase 2, of our indoor air quality project. This is an SO2 funded project. Just to remind everybody that in phase 1, we did more of the portable units, the ionization and filters and those things for the main offices and health spaces as part 1. Now this is part 2, where these are go into the larger mechanical units in the schools to improve the indoor air quality.
Okay, Superintendent Baker, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend that we approve the indoor air quality project phase 2.
Okay. Is there a motion as such? Motion by Matthew. Second by Jason. Discussion. Monica?
When you look at, I guess, what is it called, page 2 of it, under general scope of work, like the last arrow in the top part of it, provide manufacturers recommended quantities of pre-filters, HEPA filters, and UV lamps for up to 3 years. So does that mean like after 3 years, do we need to replace things then?
Yeah, we'll have to, within our operating budget,
Uh-huh.
we'll have to add these filters too as we go forward.
So the main thing you have, you're just on the filter?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, we're getting 3 years worth of filters
Uh-huh.
as part of this. So,
Okay.
so we're looking a few budget cycles out before we'll have to start building this into the budget.
I guess then my second part of the question is, when you look at, like you said, the first one with portable units, we focused on the health suites and offices prior. So when I look at it, looks like some of the schools are missing, to be what, Crowland, Swan Meadow, I believe Bradford, no, Bradford's on there. Is it Route 40?
If we handle those in the first phase with the portable units.
So they don't need anymore, that was my question. They have enough, but does the entire school?
Mhm.
Okay. So this phase 2 then, so when this is complete, all of our schools should be pretty much equal with, the air quality.
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, Jason.
Ms. Whitzer, can you just give a quick explanation for those that may be watching of what ESSER 2 funds are, of how we're funding this project? Just a short description.
Okay, so the ESSER 2 was the second large recovery package that we received from the federal government. And it was, we wrote it and received approval, wrote it in April. We received approval until the end of June. And we as a management team made the decision to the best we could put the support items into ESSER 2 so that we could keep all of the instructional recovery in ESSER 3. And ESSER 3, we do have higher requirements that 20% at minimum of ESSER 3 has to be spent on instructional recovery. So our allowable costs were much more broad in ESSER 2. So we're tackling technology to maintain our 1-to-1 ratio that we were able to attain with ESSER 1. And then we've also, this is a large initiative that's in ESSER 2, as well as a lot of our support personnel that we had hired to get us through last school year.
Cleaners, screeners.
Yeah. So cleaners, screeners, nurses, so that's the ESSER 2, we're off and running, spending that. ESSER 3, Dr. Miller is still writing.
Working with the team to write it, yes.
Great.
It is due next week, so.
It's a good question, Jason. The great thing is, these are things that we're getting done for our school system that would have never been done for our school system, ever. Probably in my lifetime at least. I'm pretty old. So, we're fortunate in that regard, not that we have a pandemic, but we're certainly fortunate that the federal government's given us a tremendous amount of money to update a lot of our facilities. Okay, great. Lost track, we have to approve it. Yeah, we haven't voted yet, have we? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Those in favor of the air quality, phase 2, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Rodney.
Aye.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you. All right, now we're down to, our updates, maintenance project updates.
Yeah, this document, I wanted, leading into the discussion to the CIP, I just wanted to provide an update of where we kind of were with 22 and some of the bigger projects. I'll be back next month with the operating budget, with the pictures and all things like I did last year, and I'll show you what we did, the smaller things we've done with our staff and some local vendors in the schools. But this was just to give you an update of kind of where we are with some of the bigger things going on in the county. You know, we're moving along with Grantsville. I hope to be back here in October or November at the latest. I'd have you award that project so we can get started. This move went really well. Grantsville's empty and we're now staging Northern Middle, you know, appropriately. The security thing, I think we had given you prior information. We were still waiting to hear about the grants and the status of the grants and those things. Well, we finally got an update on that, and we have received our $400,000 of allocation.
Right.
We got our 21 money and we got our 22 money. They're coming through different agencies, but at least we got to the bottom of that. So we hope to tackle the rest of our security storefronts or those vestibules that we've talked about to make sure there's one at each one of our facilities using that money. Also along with this money, through Mr. Gank and now working with Mr. Clark Warnick, doing a lot of dialoguing with them, we're going to have the opportunity to look at some other smaller door handles and locks and different things that we can upgrade to enhance our security. So we're going to kind of put all that into this using this funding. We have had meetings and we've been told don't count on the same allocation going forward. So the chance our allocation in 23 will probably be reduced. So this should really give us a good lead going forward after we spend all these funds for 21 and 22. Parking lot lighting, I'll be back next month to award that. That's the last part of the project the county's doing the paving and to get the lights installed, the scoreboards in, those kind of things. As you know, we talked, gave you an update on the capital grant, the indoor air quality just approved. Just some things that are also listed there for your information. We're replacing the lights now at Southern High. They're working actually tonight doing that. So we're still taking advantage of that lighting initiative to the LED panels. It doesn't cost the school system any money. So we finished Northern and hope we finish Southern here. That's just a kind of an update on where we are currently with a lot of the 22 things and some carryovers from 21.
Okay.
Monica?
It has on there for the ADA playground installation, so you still don't know the delays in getting this stuff?
Well, I think it was supposed to come today,
Okay.
but I haven't got an update from anybody there. It just keeps being delayed on us.
So optimistic that maybe it'll be when school
Fair
starts,
enough.
it'll be
That's the
there
plan.
for kids.
Yeah, that's the plan. But remember, we're putting it in a new location there, so they'll still have access to some of the older things when school opens if we're that delayed, so that they'll still have a playground opportunity.
So are we making a whole new playground then?
Yeah, we're making a new playground. As soon as you exit the back doors of Axon, it'll be on the left.
Because wasn't it kind of wet where it was?
Yeah,
too?
so we're going to connect it to part of the playground, and then our left side, it's in that we'll remove that. We're actually relocating it closer to the building and giving it some more age-appropriate equipment. Everything there was kind of like 4th and 5th graders on that side, so we're going to kind of make it all pre-K to 5. So, and the ADA accessibility, which is the key.
Didn't we previously do the ADA already at y'all place for the playground equipment? Not that long ago.
Yep,
Okay.
that's yeah.
So then all of our elementary schools are up to ADA?
Not quite all yet.
Oh, okay.
It's a plan.
So we have another one we'll be working on this.
Yes. As funding allows, we'll keep, doing that.
Okay.
Any other questions about the project updates? We're on with our project. Okay. Capital improvement plan?
Yeah, the capital improvement plan, we're still operating with, using the strategic plan and the 5-year plan and all that we implemented last year as the basis for this. Anything in red I included in the document is kind of some new things, and I'll explain those. So we go forward looking at next year. We want to do a lot of accident, as you'll see. The roof is at a life expectancy, that was on the CIP. And then we also would like to do some things under annual request there, get the parking lot paved. There's some window replacement, some drainage in the back, and some different things there to really, get that facility, up and going, for a lot of years to come. We looked at air conditioning, move that way up the priority list. I think we talked about that before. So the Northern High, we wrapped the boiler. We need to do the boiler there. We kind of wrapped that into one big mechanical project where we'd take care of the boiler, and we would try to put air conditioning in that school. As you know, right now, it's just the office and that's about it. So that school is in dire need of air conditioning. So we would like to do that. We're going to try to take advantage of the Healthy Schools grant that the state, we've applied for that. I've not received word yet, but hopefully we can get that project funded through that. One thing I guess I should open with, everything on the CIP now is the 90-10 split in terms of the funding. As you know, that's all part of the legislation. So the Healthy Schools operates the same way, where we have to fund 10% of that, just like it's through the IAC. So that same split applies. And the Accolades is also, that was on there. We moved that up to try to get all that done, during next year. And then we want to look at the back of Northern. The funding didn't land, or we could do the whole project at Northern. If you go around the back, we'd like to finish getting the paving done back there. So that was an add-on to that. As we move into 24, you'll see there's just a couple highlights there, but we're not requesting a lot of money from the IAC in 24. That's more of a heavier local year. We are working with the IAC as one of their new procedures or protocols. They allow us to bank money now. So we don't use funding that they have a figure in mind that they're going to give to Garrett County every year. And so if we don't use it that year, we can then carry it over, which is something totally new. So we're looking at 24 leading to the big project here in Oakland to kind of use that as a bank year to kind of put that in there. And we think we can still, by still following that, there's still some things we can do locally, with some of the funding to try to address, our capital improvements. You'll see the Hickory Pool kind of snuck up on us, the liner and some things in there are just not, through an inspection, they're just deteriorating. So we need to probably address that pool here in the next year or so. And then the Accolades parking lot, we did some patching there, but it's, you've been to all of our schools, our need to keep paving is just something we got to just keep moving as we go through that way. And then central office here, the windows, and as we go forward. Then we start leading into the next years, looking at the bigger project. Start the site work in 25 or school year 24, to whatever that project lands. Just to remind everybody that we are starting the timeline would be we're starting the feasibility study and ed spec in this January for approval from the IAC in the fall, and then roll it into the design phase, and then right after that, construction. So this time next year, I think we'll have pretty good guidance on what that project's going to look like.
Have we completed the grade band analysis work on there yet?
On feasibility?
Well, if you look at the what we reviewed last year, so the first thing on the project was under planning initiatives for the plan was that the grade bands would be looked at under the different models, and that was slated to be done this year.
No, we've not done that.
That was, we had that down under the FY 21, 22, but for the feasibility study, but this was to precede the feasibility.
Okay.
Yeah, what we had originally in timeline, we're fine with the timeline as far as the larger feasibility study, but that part was, I think, the part that we were going to have done prior to going into this. We had on here, I found it now, I think I thought I saw it. That would be completed by August 2021. The other one on there that
just as far as keeping us on schedule with this, is we were gonna look, and this doesn't really bear on these, but it does the larger plan we had, was the, conversations with Friendsville, on the library. And we had asked, and I understand COVID and everything, so that was, to be done by the end of last fiscal year as well, so those are two that we should, look at.
And, I think I think that whole library media thing kind of fell apart because of the 90-10 also applies to their funding. I think they do something to continue to pursue their own.
Well, yeah, if you could update us.
We'll have,
Yeah, what is
yeah,
that?
we'll still make sure we have the
Yeah.
conversations and
Yeah.
see where the,
Yeah.
because they could want, you know, they may want something, but
But then-
might not be in the cards.
And the commissioners are in favor of that. And then, I'm sorry,
You're okay.
one more. Was looking at, so with the annual request, and we're not doing it yet because it's 24 plan,
Correct.
was on the central office. We also had in here to, look at that, by next summer to see about possibilities for central office relocation. So is that something you're still?
And I think when the feasibility study will give us pretty good direction on what to do with central office. Okay. So whether it's doing the windows here or doing something down the road, which is, I mean, that'll all kind of unfold once we get an idea of what we're gonna do here in Oakland with the larger project. How the space will, how we can utilize the space going forward.
When you talk about Friendsville, I remember that too, about the library. So you're saying basically when it's moving down the fiscal year 2027, 2028.
Friendsville open space conversion, is that what you're saying the library would fit into that then?
We did that in that year where we looked at that Friendsville project and again, doing a lot like we're doing, in the parking lot. And then going back to Southern High and finishing the air conditioning in the second floor in those units. They do have some space, as we know, for air conditioning for the students, unlike Northern. So that's the, CIP.
Sure, yes. Thank you. It is very helpful. It truly is very helpful to see a broad picture of what we're looking at. Whether it ends up in the same puzzle, time will tell, but at least it gives us a broad picture.
I hope we get to the dollar amount I have listed at the bottom. If we can bring that much into the county,
Yeah, that'd
in
be
terms of
great.
capital, from that would be, time to retire.
And as we all saw, we've lost, we're gonna lose our senator, we're gonna lose our delegate. So we need to make hay while it's there.
We've been making a lot of hay lately.
We better make it quickly, because it's afraid it's gonna run out. Thank you. Okay, appreciate it very much. All right, I think we got one more thing perhaps. Budget amendment. And Schweitzer will do that.
I am here this evening. I missed you guys last month, but we have another budget amendment.
Answer any of them.
We have another budget amendment.
She missed the shortest meeting of the year.
Yeah, we're out of your mind.
I think that's why we were, yeah. So, I am requesting that the board approve a budget amendment this evening. We did discuss the, accident playground that did not get, it was not completed in FY '21, as well as, there was a large, purchase of a projector and the pool lift for Hickory. Those two items were not received by 6:30. So, we are requesting that the board, use fund balance, and it'll be from the FY '21 carryover. I don't have that amount as of now. We're not closed yet, but we did want to get this taken care of as soon as possible.
Superintendent Baker, your recommendation.
Yes, I recommend that we approve the budget amendment.
Need a motion? Motion by Jason to approve, second by Matthew, discussion. Can you, what's the projector? Tell me what that is.
Yeah, that was my question.
So, as you're well aware, we had a very different budget cycle this past year. And so the schools were able to use their school allocation money in a different way because we had so much federal funding that was able to take care of academic intervention, some of the PBIS. So the schools were able to make budget transfers, and some of them chose to purchase projectors for their larger spaces, for their gyms or their cafeterias in order to hold assemblies. And so this is one of those projectors. So it's supposed to go in the gym at Southern Middle.
It's a movable projector, I would say.
No, I think it's mounted.
I'm saying it can be taken down.
Yeah.
Well, it can't be, yeah. It's not one.
It's not portable, but it
Yeah,
can be,
right,
yeah,
right.
I get what
Not
you're
something
saying.
to- yeah.
If we need to take it.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
case we
yeah.
need to take it.
It's not portable to another area.
It's movable equipment,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Good
that's-
question.
That's what I was asking. Any, other discussion? Okay, have a motion and a second on the floor. Those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Rodney. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And, yes, Will, you are up.
All right, so the first thing that I'll start off with is new business. So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., the executive board is going to meet at Perkins Restaurant to discuss the continuation of our mental health campaign this upcoming year. At our final meeting at the end of the school year, we decided that I think we're going to start focusing more on bullying and harassment within our school system and how we can, as a community, improve that for our students and be allies to classmates who are experiencing those things. And I'll come back with an update for that next month. So the biggest involvement that I've had with student member of the board for this month was my Maryland Association of Boards of Education training orientation on August 4th. It was a virtual meeting with all of the different student members from throughout the state. We kicked off the meeting by discussing our goals and motivations as board members for the upcoming year. And it was really great to get to see how a lot of those goals interconnected and matched up with each other so that you can see how, as a coalition, when the discussions that we've been having through GroupMe, how we can align that with each other and bring that up this next school year. And I was also informed of the structure of Maryland Boards of Education as well as the importance of each board's vision/mission, so that as a member, I can align myself with that and make sure that my actions and my goals are fulfilling that vision as well. A big part of our education was learning the difference between policy and regulation and how those different aspects play into each member of the board, such as the responsibilities of board members versus the superintendent. So I was unaware of this at first, but as board members, I was told that we are more to provide the what and why, while our superintendent can focus on the when and how. So more of the regulation versus the policy. And that was really enlightening to me. I felt like that was something that I didn't know about before the training and the orientation. And I feel much more prepared now to fulfill my duty as a board member because I know exactly what I'm here for now. So I really appreciated that. And as for just general student updates and comments, everyone that I've spoken to are anticipating their new schedules for the upcoming year, especially seniors since it's their last year. And they're excited for the possibility of returning to a more normal school setting. That's the biggest thing, is getting back to that 5-day-a-week schedule in person. It's awesome that we can do that, and we're all extremely excited. So that's what I have for tonight.
Any questions for Leah?
Thank you.
All right, any board member updates? Sheriff? Okay, we recessed from executive, so we're gonna go back into executive for a few minutes. But this does end the public session of the August meeting. Thank you, those of you that watched, and those of you who attended.